Welcome back to another explainer, where we cut right through the fluff and get straight to the good stuff. Today, we're diving headfirst into the brutal, unvarnished reality of leadership. We're drawing directly from Ben Horowitz's absolute classic, The Hard Thing About Hard Things. Look, forget all those glamorous illusions of being a CEO. We're not talking about corner offices and magazine covers today. There's no magic formula here, and definitely no easy 10-step program to guaranteed success. Instead, we're looking at a gritty, real-world survival guide for building a business when there are literally no easy answers. We're going to demystify what it actually takes to survive the chaos, scale a company, and, somehow keep your sanity intact along the way.
Okay, let's just jump right in with this quote. If you are going to eat shit, don't nibble. I know it's visceral, it's a bit shocking, but it absolutely hits the nail on the head when it comes to Horowitz's core philosophy. True leadership means confronting the absolute ugliest problems head-on. When a crisis hits, dodging it, playing it down, or just taking tiny little bites out of the problem, that's just going to prolong the agony. It'll ultimately destroy your company. You literally have to swallow the hard truths whole.
And confronting those brutal truths leads us straight into what Horowitz calls the struggle. Now, you might think struggling means you've completely failed, or that your business model is somehow uniquely broken. But actually, scratch that. It is a mandatory, inescapable phase of leadership. Every single great entrepreneur experiences these moments of crippling self-doubt, fear, and challenges that just seem totally insurmountable. You're going to feel this overwhelming psychological pressure. But here's the absolute crucial takeaway. The struggle is the exact environment where greatness is forged. Surviving it, that's the only thing that separates legendary leaders from everyone else.
All right, moving on to our first major concept, the wartime CEO and adapting to the climate.
So I want you to ask yourself a really serious question right now. Are you leading in peacetime or are you leading in wartime? Because there is absolutely no one-size-fits-all recipe for complicated business situations. Peacetime means your company has a massive advantage over the competition and your core market is expanding. Wartime, on the flip side, means you are actively fending off an imminent existential threat to your survival. Recognizing exactly which climate you're in, that is step one. And the contrast between the two is literally night and day. A peacetime CEO actually has the luxury to focus on expanding opportunities, encouraging broad creativity, and managing stable, predictable growth. But a wartime CEO, that is a hyper-focused, purely survivalist mentality. Think about leaders like Steve Jobs or Andy Grove during their company's absolute darkest days. They concentrated purely on survival and incredibly swift, decisive action. They simply don't have time to build consensus. If you try to use peacetime management in a wartime scenario, your company is going to die. It's that simple. Next up, let's explore the hierarchy of survival. People, products, then profits. So taking care of your people, focusing on product quality, and then seeing the profits follow, these 3 steps are listed in this exact order for a very, very vital reason. You just cannot build a great company without great people. If you skip step 1, you completely destroy step 3. Your employees are quite literally your most valuable asset. When you invest in their well-being, their development, and their overall satisfaction, it naturally leads to step 2, creating genuinely great, innovative products. And when you have highly motivated people building phenomenal things, step 3, financial success and profit, just becomes a natural consequence. It's a long game, sure, but it's the only one that's actually sustainable. But taking care of your people actually starts with how you hire them in the first place. And the gritty reality of building a world-class team takes a very specific mindset. You have to hire for strength, not just a lack of weakness. What does that actually mean for us? Well, it means you should be hunting for individuals who are absolutely exceptional in specific, critical areas, rather than someone who is just okay across the board. A team of highly focused specialists is always going to outperform a group of well-rounded generalists. You need to find the people who have the exact superpower your company desperately needs to survive right now. Of course, leading people isn't always about bringing them on board. Sometimes it's about the absolute hardest part of business, letting them go. When you're forced to make agonizing choices like layoffs, your approach completely dictates the culture of the surviving company. Transparency is 100% non-negotiable. You have to be crystal clear and honest about why it's happening. You have to train your managers to deliver the news with real deep empathy. And most importantly, the CEO absolutely cannot hide behind HR. The CEO has to address the entire company to provide context, take full responsibility, and reassure the people who are staying. Trust is literally your only currency in these moments. All right, that brings us to our next key concept, firing lead bullets. This whole concept of lead bullets totally shatters a super common myth in the tech and business worlds.
You know how it is. Everyone is always desperately searching for that silver bullet, that one magical PR stunt, that one killer partnership, or that viral marketing campaign that's going to instantly fix a struggling product. Well, Horowitz argues that silver bullets just do not exist. There are only lead bullets. And that means coming to terms with the fact that success requires rolling up your sleeves, getting back to the basic fundamentals, and just doing the slow, heavy lifting. And the time Horowitz spent at Netscape proves this perfectly. When they were facing intense, existential competition from Microsoft, their product was seriously lagging. They didn't sit around hoping for a magical shortcut to save them. Instead, they had to rely on completely unglamorous, grinded-out hard work. They fired lead bullets by making tiny, incremental, often tedious improvements to the product's performance, day in and day out. Relentless grinding execution is really the only true way to solve core business issues. Moving right along, let's tackle a really heavy topic. To sell or not to sell? It is pretty much the ultimate question, isn't it? Should you sell your company? It's a massive decision that will test a CEO's ability to balance cold, hard market logic against intense, very personal human emotion. Think about it. You are holding the fate of your employees, your investors, and your own life's work right in the palm of your hands. So how do you actually decide? Well, Horowitz advises weighing this out using his own agonizing experience with Opsware as a guide. First, you have to look at the cold logic. Are you very early on in a genuinely massive market? And do you have a realistic, solid chance of being number one in that market? If the answer to both is yes, you should probably remain a standalone company to maximize that potential. But we're human, right? You can't ignore the emotional side. You have a deep personal attachment to what you've built. A CEO has to somehow learn to mute those intense emotions to make a purely rational choice, all while still navigating the massive emotional toll it takes on them behind closed doors. Which tees up our final major section perfectly. Mastering your own psychology. Let's be real for a second. Being a CEO is inherently stressful and profoundly isolating. To manage your own psychology, you first just have to acknowledge the reality of the gig. As a leader, you are going to feel this overwhelming pressure to be overly positive all the time, to project constant confidence even when you feel like the ship is actively sinking. And that pressure, it will completely break you if you don't manage it. You have to build a solid support network of peers, people who actually understand the unique, crazy burden of the job, just to combat that isolation. And above all, like we talked about earlier, you absolutely cannot hide from the tough stuff. You have to face the pain head on. And mastering your own mind is the only way you can effectively manage others. I love this quote. The difference between being mediocre and magical is often the difference between letting people take creative risk and holding them too tightly accountable. It's such a brilliant reminder of the delicate, constant tightrope walk required to be a great leader. Yes, you need to foster a culture of excellence and set really high expectations, but if you hold on too tightly and punish every single failure, you're going to completely crush the exact innovation that could save your company. You have to give your people the space to be magical. So pulling all of this together as we wrap up this explainer, we return to the core truth of this whole analysis. The struggle is not a flaw in the system. It is not a sign that you are somehow doing it all wrong. It is an inherent, totally inevitable part of leadership. The struggle is the exact environment where true greatness is achieved. Trying to avoid it, that literally guarantees failure. Embracing it is your only real path forward. I want to leave you with one final provocative question to chew on today. When the inevitable struggle hits your company, and trust me, it will hit, are you going to nibble at the edges of the problem, hoping for some magical silver bullet to save the day? Or are you ready to master your psychology, fire the lead bullets, and face the pain head on? Take a hard look at your own resilience, because in the messy, hard world of business, your willingness to confront the ugly truths is what's ultimately going to define your legacy. Keep learning, keep pushing, and I will catch you in the next explainer.